Agent Source of Police, how can I help? My daughter's gone missing. No one has seen her, no? No. We phoned around the family. All her friends have contacted us and asking where she is, and none of them know. What's her name? Rebecca Watts.
You just heard the 999 call of a very concerned father reporting his 16-year-old daughter Rebecca Watts missing. His name is Darren Galsworthy and he didn't know it at the time, but his whole world was about to be turned upside down. Hello everyone, welcome back to Crime Rush. I'm Inga and on this channel we discuss all sorts of true crime cases. Now if you're into that, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like and click that bell notification button so you never miss an upload. However, if you are sensitive to this type of content or easily triggered, rather turn away now and take care of your mental health first. Rebecca Marie Watts was born on the 3rd of June 1998 to parents Tanya Watts and Darren Galsworthy in Bristol in the UK. But Tanya and Darren separated before Becky was even born, and she spent most of her early life with her mom. Unfortunately, due to suspected neglect, she, along with her brother Dan, were removed from the care of their mother, and soon they would go and live with Becky's dad Darren and their stepmom Angie. And Angie also had a son. His name was Nathan Matthews. Nathan was 12 years old when his mom Angie started dating Darren, but he wasn't so accepting of this relationship. In fact, he felt like Darren was just interfering with his relationship with his mom and he didn't really want him in their lives. He actually decided to move in with his grandmother, but he would still go over to his mom and Darren's place for visits. He got on well with his stepbrother Dan, but he didn't have the best relationship with Becky. Nathan was 10 years older than her, so it could be that he struggled to bond with her due to the big age gap, but he always seemed so annoyed with her. At one point, Becky developed an eating disorder, but Nathan showed no concern for her. In fact, he just said that she was making it up and doing it on purpose just to get attention. But Becky was actually being bullied at school, and her stepmom Angie reached out to local services to support her. But little did they know that she was also being bullied at home by none other than Nathan. Nathan was a bit of an odd character. There was an incident when he was 19 years old when he showed up to Angie and Darren's home with 4 girls that looked really young. And when I say they looked young, I mean they looked around 12 years old. And when Darren saw this, he ordered Nathan to take the girls home immediately. Nathan was also in the Territorial Army at one point, and other members said he had no friends and would often lose his temper and throw things. His cadet instructor said he had a cheeky confidence about him. And when Nathan was 21 years old, he would bring home his new girlfriend to meet his family. Her name was Shauna Hoare. And the two of them lied to his family and told them that she was 19 when she was only 15 years old. But Darren took one look at her and realized that this was not the truth, and he told Nathan to take Shauna home. This relationship, however, would continue, and Shauna and Nathan would actually go on to have a little girl together. And once they had a child, they moved in together. And this is when Darren would sort of allow Shauna to start visiting with Nathan. But he always said there was just something about Shauna. He couldn't exactly put his finger on it, but he didn't like her. And there was just something off about her. And boy, was he right. On the 19th of February 2015, it was Becky's brother Dan's 20th birthday. And the whole family planned on getting together to celebrate at the home. Shauna and Nathan also came with their little girl, and it is on this day that Becky would just disappear and the unthinkable would happen. On that day, Becky spent a lot of time in her room, which wasn't exactly unusual, but when Darren went to check on her, she was nowhere to be found. They searched through the home for her, but she wasn't there. And Shauna, Nathan's girlfriend, actually said she heard the door slam and she just assumed that it was Becky and that she had left to go see her friends or her boyfriend, which also wasn't unusual. But when they started contacting her boyfriend and her friends, and they all said they had not seen her, and some of them even showed up to the house looking for her, Darren knew that something was wrong. And that's when he made the 999 call and reported her missing.
She was your typical teenage girl. Lots of selfies, music, fashion. If you can see this, get in contact. And if anyone out there knows something, just tell us. Just bring her home safe. If you've got her, then put her somewhere we can find her. We want her home, please.
Police immediately started searching for Becky. It's quite common in the Bristol area for teens to go missing, but they are almost always found at a friend's home or hiding out somewhere. Unfortunately, this would not be the case with Becky. They couldn't find her anywhere in Bristol, and that's when they phoned the national media to get the word out. They were hoping that they might be able to make contact with Becky in this way or whoever she was with. Her dad, Darren, and stepmother Angie did media interviews pleading for her return and were hoping that she would still turn up somewhere. They also tried to spread the word on social media about her disappearance, begging the public to keep an eye out for her. The hashtag Find Becky spread quickly over social media, and police also tried to spread the word on Twitter. The last place that anyone saw Becky was in her room, so the police decided on the 25th of February to search the home to see if they could find any clues that she might have left behind before she just disappeared into thin air. Unfortunately, they couldn't find anything useful to the investigation, and by now, Becky had been missing for 5 days already. They became even more concerned when they realized her laptop and cell phone were missing, but there was no activity on the social media platforms that she used on a daily basis. Police asked everyone who was in the home the day of the disappearance to come in for questioning. They also questioned all of Becky's friends and her boyfriend, but the only thing they could assist with was describing who Becky was and how she lived her life. Police were able to get hold of everyone quite easily and question them, except for 2 people. Becky's stepbrother Nathan and his girlfriend Shauna. And once they finally got hold of the couple, they agreed to come in for questioning. But in comparison to all the other interviews they conducted, Nathan and Shauna's interviews stood out. Everyone else seemed genuinely concerned for Becky and her safety, but Nathan seemed completely relaxed, without a care in the world, and he showed no concern for Becky. Shauna came across as extremely inappropriate as she giggled throughout the interview. Nathan and Shauna's stories about the day of Becky's disappearance aligned perfectly. In fact, it was too perfect, which pointed to the fact that they had discussed what they were going to say beforehand so they wouldn't contradict each other. All of this stood out to police, and they were suspicious of the couple. Shauna said she was having a smoke outside when she heard the front door slam, and she assumed that it was Becky.
I think we got there about 11ish. The door was locked, so obviously we used a key from underneath the recycling bin. Got in, heard music upstairs, assumed Becky had been in then. I went into the kitchen to get a cigarette and went to go outside to have a cigarette. My daughter started whinging because she wanted to come out with me, so I took her down to the garden to help feed the rabbit while I had a cigarette. Probably was about 15-20 minutes. Then we came back up. I went into the kitchen to get a drink, I think it was, and wash my hands. Then I heard the front door slam. Carried on washing my hands, went into the living room. And then I think it wasn't until a lot later on that Angie asked me if Becky had gone out. And I said, yeah, I heard the door go. She must have gone out earlier. Washing my hands, I think I heard the door slam, front door. Again, I didn't look at the time or think anything of it, so I didn't really kind of like, oh, what was that? It was just the door, so Becky would have gone out.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think I've accidentally got this in the wrong order here.
Okay.
You have to clarify this. So, right, let me just go back slightly then, if I could. The door slamming then. You've already said you got to get from the kitchen through to the living room.
Yep.
So, how far away from that front door would you be?
But you've got the front door, the living room, and about halfway up the hallway is the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been at the sink. So no distance, a reasonable amount, I'd say.
Okay.
Nathan gave the same story.
Are you thinking that's the front door that's slammed? Yeah, okay. And who did you think that was then?
Well, Becky.
I mean, I think what we'll do is we'll probably wrap the interview up. No, we've been talking for 2 hours, it's quite a long time.
My back's killing. So.
I know.
Through all the questioning, police realized that the last people to have seen Becky was Nathan and Shauna. And the search for Becky continued. People were putting up posters, the communities were coming together, everyone was searching for her, but nobody could find her. 9 days after the disappearance, police decided to search Becky's home once more. And they went in with a forensics team this time, and it paid off because they found blood spatter on Becky's bedroom door and bloody fingerprints. Now they needed to test to see who the blood belonged to and who the fingerprint belonged to. But while they were waiting for these results, they phoned Nathan and Shauna and asked them to come in for another interview. These second interviews would uncover a lot of how Nathan really felt about Becky. And when they asked Shauna how Nathan was dealing with her disappearance, she said that he was not dealing with it well at all. And she was making it sound like he was actually concerned for Becky.
And then the only other thing was just a minor thing really, but I think some of our colleagues were trying to speak to Nathan, just part of those initial inquiries just a few days ago on Tuesday, I think it was, and they sort of perceived a bit of reluctance. So, do you have any knowledge of that?
Not to my knowledge, but I wouldn't know, no.
No. Has Nathan had any sort of concerns about speaking to us?
Not that he's told me, no.
No.
If he does, I wouldn't know then.
Yeah. How is he finding it?
He's found it quite hard, actually. Again, he's kind of more thinking, my God, if it was...
Yeah.
Or again, knowing how hard it'd be for his mum at the moment. You know, because Becky was almost like her daughter to her.
Yeah.
You know, when it is.
And then over the weekend, have either you or Nathan been involved in searching for Becky or doing any?
No, I wasn't aware they were doing a search. I didn't realise until I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I went on my Facebook and obviously there was news articles and pictures popped up about that they did the search, but we weren't told about it at all.
Well, that's fine. Okay, so to Nathan, that's actually a good thing. Where did you guys go then over the weekend? I don't know if you're able to remember that far back.
Well, the weekend that Becky,
after Becky went missing. I think if I help you, so I think it was on Monday actually that you spoke to police officers, like detectives.
Which would have been outside my mum's house.
That's right.
So I would have went to my mum's that day.
So that was on Monday.
I think I went over on Tuesday.
Where did you stay on Monday night?
It would have been at my house, but we didn't leave until about midnight, to be honest.
So left about midnight
Monday.
Yeah,
most nights we did. Tuesday we went over again.
Yeah.
Again, probably would have left about midnight.
Yeah.
Wednesday, I think we stayed in my house. We might have gone over again Wednesday, actually, sorry, I think. Thursday, which was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Yeah, we had the interview, and then obviously we've gone over again today. Yeah, because Wednesday we started watching a film, or 2 films that my mum fell asleep, and we didn't leave until like 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Thursday, yeah.
And then Thursday, we obviously had the interview, and then today.
But when Nathan was asked the same question, he said he didn't care for Becky much, and he didn't like the way that she spoke to his mom.
So how would you describe your relationship with Becky?
Didn't particularly talk to her, but Obviously, I don't particularly like her, and obviously what annoys me is the way she speaks to, like, my mum sometimes. She'd be kind of, like, rude or whatever. I'm trying to think of an actual specific time.
These interviews made police even more suspicious of Nathan and Shauna, but they had no concrete proof at that moment, so they had to let the pair go. But soon the results were in, and the blood indeed belonged to Becky, and the fingerprint belonged to Nathan. On the 28th of February 2015, Nathan and Shauna were arrested.
Hey, buddy. Thanks very much. The reason I've come here is to make an arrest of yourself, okay? And what I'm going to do is explain everything here now, okay?
Just put your hands like that for me, alright?
The couple are then questioned once again at the police station, but this time the police add a bit more pressure on them. And at one point, you can even hear the investigator tell Shauna that she can see she is hiding something. She can see it in her face.
Anything that happened that could be significant in the disappearance of Rebecca. Are you absolutely sure? Yes. I know you've got something to tell us. I can see it in your face.
I was just making sure there was nothing, like a weird, significant thing that I hadn't thought of. I don't know.
While they were doing these interviews with Nathan and Shauna, a forensic team was busy searching their home. And this home of theirs, wow, it was so cluttered. Think hoarders, okay? That's how bad it was. There was just stuff everywhere, just clothes and rubbish and whatever, you name it. It was just all over the place. But when they went upstairs, something really stood out to them. The bathtub. This bathtub was spotless. It was so clean. There was no clutter in it. There was nothing in the bath. In fact, it was shiny. And the bathtub was on the right-hand side of the room. And on the left-hand side, everything was in disarray again. So it was literally only that little piece that was so clean. And it was really strange because every single other part of the home was in disarray, except for the bathtub. So that's pretty suspicious, right? And I mean, I can't help but think, how stupid are they? They must have been able to prepare for this in their minds, thinking that there might be a search at some point in their home. Why not just throw a bunch of stuff in there? I mean, there's so much stuff lying around. Basically, just pick it up the floor and throw it in the bath to make it just look normal. But no, these criminals are dumbasses. Given the state of the place, it took the forensics team 2 whole days to search the home. But eventually it would pay off and they would find something that will point them in the right direction. They found 2 receipts for a DIY hardware store, and police noticed the date on the receipt was the exact date that Becky was reported missing. They bought the following: a mask, goggles, gloves, and a circular saw. Investigators went to the store to check the surveillance, and that is when they saw that it was Nathan who purchased these items. After this discovery, police went and re-arrested Nathan and Shauna, and then they went to break the news to Becky's father and her stepmother. Now I want you to take a quick moment and just imagine this whole story. Police tell Darren and Angie that they suspect that Angie's son, Nathan, and his girlfriend are responsible for ending Becky's life, who is Angie's husband's daughter. I mean, I can't even imagine how that conversation went, because Becky was like a daughter to Angie too. I can only imagine that she was also devastated. but she's also Nathan's mother. So it must have felt very conflicting, but I know that she stood by Darren because she loves him and she acknowledged that her son was a piece of crap. But I can only imagine that it couldn't have been easy. Darren was devastated and Angie obviously was devastated too, but she probably carried a lot of guilt because it was her son who did this. That on the 3rd of March 2015, Nathan gave a statement via his attorney, and it read, I quote, "I, Nathan Charles Matthews, accept I'm responsible for the death of Rebecca Watts. On the 19th of February 2015, I attended Crown Hill, St. George, Bristol with my girlfriend Shauna Hoare. In my car, I had a large bag, a stun device, handcuffs, tape, and a mask. I had developed an idea to scare Rebecca by kidnapping her. I wanted to scare her and teach her a lesson. I believed that she was selfish and her behavior towards my mother was a risk to her health. A few minutes after arriving, Shauna said she wanted a cigarette and went into the garden. I went to the boot of my car, took out a bag that contained the items, then went upstairs to the landing before knocking on Rebecca's door. She replied, 'What?' or 'Hello,' and I said, 'Can I see you a minute?' I cannot be sure which order things happened, but I used the items I had to subdue Rebecca. During the short struggle, my mask slipped and Rebecca was able to see my face. This caused me to panic and I strangled her while she was partially in the bag." He then went on to explain to police exactly what he did to Rebecca's body, and he said he placed it in the tub and he dismembered it. And that's exactly why that bath was so clean, because he had to actually clean it because he had to get rid of the evidence. And I just think it's absolutely sickening. Anyone who is capable of dismembering someone else is a sick person. Police found Becky's remains at another home in Bristol in suitcases and bags wrapped in plastic and filled with cat litter to try and soak up the blood. They also added salt crystals to try and hide the smell. The people who lived in the house, 3 males and 2 females, were charged with assisting an offender, which they pleaded guilty to, and 2 of them were later acquitted. The pathologist determined that Becky most likely passed on from suffocation, and she was also slashed 15 times post-mortem. She also had many defensive wounds, which showed that Becky really fought for her life. But you're probably wondering if Shauna, Nathan's girlfriend, had anything to do with this, because she was acting pretty suspicious, right? Well, police were wondering the same thing, and that's why they decided that they were going to investigate even further. So they took Becky and Nathan's phones and had a look at their messages and their phone records. And that is when they would discover something truly shocking. Nathan and Shauna's phones showed both had searched for adult material with minors in it, and in text messages discussed grabbing minors and keeping them in the attic. It was clear that the couple both shared the fantasy of getting involved with minors sexually and against their will, which is incredibly disturbing. They asked Shauna about this.
So the first message is 9th of 12th, 2014, timed at 12:48, and it says to Shauna, and it says, "Fuck you, bring me back, 2 pretty schoolgirls den. D1, I think that says. Tell me about that text message."
No comment.
Next message is 9th of December 2014 at 18:14. It says from Shauna, "Just went to Costco's and saw a very, in big caps, pretty petite girl. Almost knocked her out to bring her home. LOL." And there's crosses and zeros. Shauna, what can you tell me about that?
No comment.
Am I right in thinking that this girl was similar to Becca's age?
No comment.
And once forensic investigators had tested all the bags with Becky's body parts in them, they found Shauna's DNA on them too. And on the 22nd of June, they charged Shauna Hoare with ending the life of Becky Watts. Becky's funeral took place on the 17th of April 2015 at St. Ambrose Church. The service was open to the public, but her burial was private. Becky was described as a typical teen who loved music, makeup, and fashion. She was quiet, she was shy, but would come out of her shell around those she felt comfortable with and knew well. She had a small group of close friends who loved her. One of these friends would go on to state that Becky had confided in them 2 years prior to this horrific ordeal that Nathan had threatened her and that he had described to her in detail how he planned on ending her life. Nathan and Shauna's trial began on the 6th of October 2015. Due to the text messages exchanged between the couple, the prosecutor stated, quote, "In addition to their apparent dislike of Rebecca Watts, there is good reason to believe that there was also a sexual motive behind the scheme, arising from a shared unnatural interest in attractive teenage females." Now, just to clarify on exactly what happened that day and how they managed to get Becky out of the home without anyone noticing, I'm just going to do a quick recap of what happened on that day. Nathan knew that his mom Angie had a doctor's appointment that day and that Rebecca would be alone at home that morning. So he and Shauna and their little girl went over to the house. They grabbed Becky, they ended her life, and they placed her in the trunk of the car. They then went inside and celebrated Dan's birthday and acted as if nothing was wrong. They eventually left with Becky still in the trunk and then carried her into their apartment, placed her in the bath, and that's when they dismembered her. Now, I'm not sure if they were able to do anything, with the body. I'm not sure. But I don't think the whole thing happened the way they wanted it to, so I doubt it. Nathan was found guilty of kidnapping and ending Becky's life and was sentenced to a minimum term of 33 years in prison. Shauna was found guilty of kidnapping and manslaughter and was sentenced to 17 years in prison. However, she only spent 8.5 years in prison and was released on the 1st of September 2023. Becky's biological mother, Tanya, said she had been dreading the day to arrive and felt helpless knowing that the woman convicted of her daughter's manslaughter would be out of prison. Both of these people, in my opinion, should never be released. The fact that Shauna is walking around a free woman out there makes me sick to my stomach after what she did to Becky. Becky was not hurting anyone. She was relaxing in her room. Her last text message to her boyfriend said she was just listening to music. And then someone grabs her, someone who was supposed to protect her and love her, grabbed her in her own home. She wasn't even safe in her own home. And then she had to lose her life in this horrific way by the hands of two monsters. My heart really goes out to Darren, Becky's father, and I know that he actually wrote a book about the whole thing and called it Becky. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I would love to. And against all odds, he and Angie stayed together and are still supporting each other. And just to add a little bonus quickly for you, and if you enjoy karma, you're going to love this, because while Shauna was in prison, she was beaten so badly by fellow inmates that she had to spend days in the hospital, and they reportedly had to resuscitate her. I also read somewhere that Nathan wasn't having the best time in prison either, and that he was being targeted by inmates. So that's a bit of karma for them, but still not enough punishment for what they did to Rebecca Watts. But let me know your opinions on this case. How do you feel about this? Because this case infuriates me. I can't believe what they did to this young girl. She literally had her whole life ahead of her, and they did something so disgusting. How do you feel about the sentencing? Because he got 33 years. That doesn't feel enough to me after what he did. He literally cut her up in pieces. Okay, and Shauna is free. She's a free woman. She's out with the rest of society now. How does that make sense? Please explain that to me after what she did. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Other than that, I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.